Welcome, and thank you for tuning in on Yachting International Radio. My name is Eva Lianne Veldkamp, and you are listening to Maritime Unity, the podcast where we talk about inclusion and safety, and how the true meaning of it can change the world that we live in. Today, we will talk with Gillian McGrath about neurodiversity. Hi, Gillian.
Hi, Eva.
Hi, thank you for being on the show with us today. And the first question I always ask is, could you give us a quick introduction about who you are and what you love to do most?
Well, thanks for having me on here. And I was dreading you asking that question, actually, because I just find it really hard to answer. I know what I'm supposed to say. I see how people answer these questions, but that doesn't come naturally to me. So I just go blank when somebody asks me that kind of question. It's the same as the how are you question.
Oh, yeah.
Just blank, which, I guess is part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a big question. And we were just talking about this when we were preparing for this podcast. And it's so funny because Gillian told me exactly what she said now. And I recognized it so much. But you didn't expect me to, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah, and it was really uncovering, or how do you say that? It was really nice to talk about this because also I'm scripting it. So if I have to introduce myself, I know exactly what I do, right? I know what I did. I know who I am. I know what is nice for people to know that I do. I know what the conversation is about. I know everything. And still I have to write it down. This is my name. This is what I do. This is what I want to say, especially when it's about myself. I really have to script it because otherwise I will just get so overwhelmed with the information and what I have to tell and what will people think and all of the things in my mind, and it's just too much. So thank you so much for saying this, because this is so valuable to know, because and I think maybe also more people can recognize this about themselves. So maybe it's a better question, what you love to do most? Or is it still too big?
It's still too hard. Yeah. It's still difficult. Yeah. I don't know where to start.
Yeah, maybe we can start with where we met, because we met online.
Yeah, we did. We met in, I don't know what you'd call it, the think tank.
Yeah, well, we worked together on the group that we started on psychological safety to address bullying and assault and harassment in the maritime sector. Gillian is working at a maritime college in Scotland, so she has a very specific perspective on things that were on our agenda that we were working on. And I think your job and what you work on a daily basis really was, it made very much connection to the work that we did as a group, and your contributions were very valuable because you have the perspective of a teacher, right? So
it's funny because so we met more. My drive when I met you was very much focused on trying to improve the culture at sea more for women than anything. But since, I don't know if that's a year or more, it's really, it's inclusiveness for all, but then it brings in, so neurodiversity is another aspect, or something that relates to me. And it's just less words, but I think because I work with cadets and I get a lot of feedback from them about their experiences at sea, and some positive, but there's a lot of challenges for them. And that female cadets, and that's all cadets. But more recently, I've noticed there's more and more declaring neurodiversity, which is quite a change. And it's a great thing because, or for me in the classroom, understanding that there are, I've always thought about what each student's individual needs are. But when they can tell you themselves, when they understand themselves and are able to, and that's just part of a good educational establishment will try and adapt to everyone's needs and support everyone's needs. But when cadets go on to sea, it's what happens to them then. And there's not, or what is the industry doing there to support? And can they let people know? Are they aware Are people on board aware what they can do to help them? Are companies aware? Do you want to keep that hidden because that might negatively impact you? I don't know. There's so many pros to being neurodiverse. So much you can bring, but it can be quite a challenging environment socially and work-wise. For me, I don't know about you, Eva, but the mixing social and work and the hierarchical thing and how you're supposed to interact with these people at this level, this rank, and what are you supposed to do and all of that. And then they're this level in the work side, and then you're supposed to socialise with them. But then how do you speak to them now? Because that's a different thing. And then also don't want to speak to anyone because I've just been around you all day and I just need to be alone. But you can't be alone because that's rude to not socialise, or, it's not, what's your problem? Why aren't you engaging with us? There's so many things of the pressure of that, and then trying to fit in. You don't have to fit in, but if you have that survival mechanism that, for me, from childhood, it's how do I go under the radar and fit into this thing and not be noticed and just blend, then, and it's only in the last few years I've understood that about myself. And I don't know about you, but it's like, why am I doing that? Why am I trying to be like you? Do I even like that? I don't think I do. And no, I don't need to. But understanding neurodiversity, and then go, oh, right, okay, that's why. And I don't, okay, now I get it. And now, it's okay to just go and be alone. And actually, I need to. That was a long thing there, Eva.
It was, right? And we talked about this before privately, I think, and it's so nice to talk about it also, with each other, with other people around you, with people in the workplace, with your friends, with your family, because I think, and also what we're doing here is really important, because when you voice your experience or how you experience life, and then not only what you see, but definitely what you feel. So what you just explained about how you felt when you were working on board of a ship in this hierarchical structure with all the social norms and all the rules that were not told, never, the unspoken things, especially the unspoken things, they can be so hard. And what I discovered for myself, and I think also you just explained, is that right now, in this point of time, you have so much information available, and especially on social media and in books and in research and podcasts, you can hear so much about neurodiversity, ADHD, ADD, autism, or all kinds of things on all kinds of spectrums, I think you call it, that sometimes when people just tell how they experience the world, you can recognize a little bit about this. And then the following magical thing is that you can learn from it. Like, hey, when I experience this, I actually do that. And then it works for me. And then you can also try it. And sometimes it works for you. It makes you feel better. And I think in the end, it makes you feel more safe into your own body, into your own person. And then you can just relax a little bit, because this constant anxiety is really bad sometimes. And if you start noticing that you can actually relax into who you are, that's so nice. That's really nice. And I wish that to all people on board of a ship and all people living on this world, that they can relax into who they are as a human being. And then really you can also create an inclusive space. So what this podcast is actually about is talking about inclusion and safety. And it leads to diversity, right? And leads to also people who are neurodiverse. Maybe they have special things inside of their nervous system and their brains that allows them to function in a way that is a little bit hidden sometimes, but it can be really valuable in some cases. And in some cases, it can be a burden, especially sometimes with the unwritten social rules and stuff, as an example. Yeah, so or with introducing yourself. Right? Just
or just small talk. That stuff you have to do in really every ship you go. The new people you have to meet and all the time, and that's small talk thing until you get to understand, to know people. Yeah,
Yeah. So it's easy when it's really good. So thank you so much for talking about this today, because I hope it's valuable. And also, if you're watching this, if you're watching our conversation and you have some thoughts, then please share them below. Because what I noticed above all is that if we all share our perspective, we can bridge gaps, right, between us, and we can notice that we are all different, but also all the same at the same time. And that this is actually really nice.
I think what you're saying there is good. Sharing is when you share, like, oh, this happens to me in this situation, then other people go, for us, like, oh my God, that's me, that happens to me. So then you learn from that person as well, oh, and this works in this situation, or this is what, certain situations now, I know I just won't get into those. I just avoid them. That's fine. But I know that won't work for me. I don't do certain things. And then other thing, I know kind of the boundaries, or I need to watch those boundaries. I need to be aware of certain things. Yeah. This sharing, I think, is so important, because so we're learning at a later age. This is how we work, and this is why, and what we need. But the younger you are learning this, if you come straight out of school and as a cadet, to understand yourself, whether you're neurodiverse or not, to have that understanding and realize that everyone has different things and that's okay, really will make such a difference to your life and whatever you do, won't it?
Definitely. Definitely. And it make it a lot easier for everybody, for yourself, for the people who are around you, for the people who you have to work with, and especially on the vessel. This is really important because it's such a, it's closed, or how you said it, like an isolated environment. Yeah. So it's a very important skill. And you're absolutely right. And I think also, something changed in the world. Maybe it's after COVID, or maybe it's, I don't know what exactly happened, but it was something in our consciousness as a humankind that allowed us to see it, like observe it more about ourselves. And if I look at my own children, for example, they already have this ability way more than I had as a kid. Mm-hmm. So something is happening in the consciousness of our minds, or something inside of our systems, or I don't know exactly what it is, but it's so nice to talk about this and to learn, because then you can really create, an environment and behavioral skills that will just allow everybody to be themselves. And then you can really very much contribute to what it is you're doing. Because also about the introduction, this is just a really good topic. Because what I found most difficult about, if people ask me to give an introduction about myself, what I do, I can tell about what I do, but it's not who I am. Like, my job is not who I am. So, and then if people, maybe you can talk about your purpose then. Well, okay, my life purpose is just to serve the universe. Is this what you mean? No, please, more specific. Like, but that's it. It's so difficult. And I think it's really nice and important to talk about, because who you are is not what you do. And if you mix that up, you might end up thinking, especially for people in power now, I think of it, by the way. Because if you have a fancy title, I can imagine that you would like to say that because you're proud on your title, right? But it's not who you are. You are still, a human being. And, your parents gave you a name, but your parents didn't give you a job title, right? It's not who you are. Yeah. And if you mix that up, it can even be dangerous, because then you can just lay in there, like hang in that title and know, I am, I am a boss, or I am a president, or I am a champion. And then, okay, you are a champion because you achieved this goal for yourself, or you had the diploma, or you really had skills. You have skills, like, I recognize and respect that, but it's not who you are, because you're the same human being as me. We both have like blood inside of us, and we have basic needs like going to the toilet and drinking water. And I think this might be the mix-up about why this question is so big.
Is it? And I guess, I don't know if this is good off. Is it not an insecurity thing, just to throw out your high-level job title and who you are. Just
maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but so that you're insecure about who you are and then you need the title. You mean like this?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we should cut this. But
Maybe. Yeah. It's not what we wanted to talk about for sure. But I think it's a nice topic, but not for today. I agree on this. Let's go back to the actual topic. I don't think there's need for cutting it because it was nice to talk about, I think. But if you don't agree, then of course you can tell me.
Yeah, no, I have things to say on it, but then I don't know if it's appropriate. So I'll just... True. Yeah.
Let's dive into the topic we want to talk about. And that's neurodiversity. And I thought, so when I came across the term neurodiversity, there's also, by the way, there's neurodiversity at sea. If you Google it, you go to a website, also they're on LinkedIn, which is really great.
Yeah, that's true. That says a lot that there is that site exists now. So hopefully it'll pick up traction and I'll have a look at that.
What I noticed for myself when I first came across this word, it was really nice because it's like an inclusive term to me. So when you say, because sometimes I have behavior that is like ADHD or, well, if I look at the symptoms of some, and they call it mental disorders, which I don't agree with. Also, this also makes it difficult because I think it's not a disorder.
It's just superpowers, aren't they, kids?
Yeah. So we're not there yet. So I think the science is not there yet to understand what it actually is inside of your brain that makes you diverse, right? That makes you completely you. So that's why I really like the term neurodiversity. Do you have a take on this also, on the term?
Is it neurodiversity as opposed to what term?
Yeah, what it means.
I think the idea that it's to be neurodiverse is some kind of disability or disadvantage. I just think that it's so wrong. You're very lucky if you're neurodiverse because you just have all these traits, all these things that you can bring. And when you work in a team, nobody will think like you. Actually, all the individuals in the team, nobody thinks like each other, and it's all needed. But if you can figure out what the strengths are of each of your team and how you work together and at the moment, I'm really fortunate with the people I work with on my team that we all have these different kind of strengths. And it really works. We do, what we achieve as a result of that is really brilliant. But I think it's important we can voice our things. Eva, I'm finding this really hard.
It is, but you explained it so well.
I'm finding it really hard to try.
It's really hard because it's so difficult to explain. But you explained it actually really well. Sorry.
I'm conscious that people are watching, and I can't. And then when I'm conscious, it becomes false. It's the false me you're getting. It's the one that's trying to say, and it can't be me.
Yeah.
And I feel I need a perfectly form. If something's not nicely packaged, so I'm going here and there. And whereas normally we could just have a conversation that would go like that. I'm really struggling with this. Because
it's good that you tell me and that you tell us, because it's really important, and it also makes us understand what is going on in your brain right now, which is a lot.
I feel quite uncomfortable.
I'm sorry.
But normally I wouldn't, and it should be the same thing. But it's that people are watching, and then
well, thank you for sharing that, because that's vulnerable to say as well. Because I have it all the time. When we're just coming on, I explained also to Gillian that I have it all the time. And when I started doing this, like recording things and speaking publicly, and I spoke even in the IMO, right? It is UN body. So, and it was so scary. But what helped me is that I really wanted to bring across the message. So I had to do it. I made myself do it, but it was so hard. And also, I can really recognize it makes you so anxious and so aware of how people perceive you. And then it gets really bad. And you have all kinds of coping mechanisms, of course. But I think what helped me the best is that I figured out ways to make me feel safe in my own body. And most of the time, that's connection with other people as well, even if it's digital like this. It helps if you just tell me, because then we can connect over this, and then it instantly relieves a little bit. Oh yeah, but that's true. This is just a reality, and this is how I do it. And then if you talk about this, you can get some kind of connection, and then you can feel more safe into your own person and your own body. And also grounding techniques, so feeling your feet while you're doing something that scares you or that makes you anxious really helps as well. Minding your breathing, bring it lower into your belly, also helps me. I'm sitting on a ball always.
Are you?
That's right. I shouldn't do that. But it really helps me as well. So you can just give yourself those things. But it starts with giving it recognition, right? Like you just showed us.
Can we just pick a topic and go into it?
Yes.
Yeah, we good with that, right? Can we talk about Onboard, how it might cause issues for people? Because one I can think of is, I have students who struggle starting things. I know that's a common, I don't have the formal name, but to actually get started in something and manage it and finish it. They really struggle with that. So how could people help them on board if first of all, they need to recognize that themselves, but just what kind of, because that can obviously impact their work on board. It would be important that somebody senior needs to be aware that they might have that issue. So what can they do? What can other crew around them do? How would you notice it? Because some people think it's just, they're just a bit lazy. They're just not focused. They're not, but this is a real problem for them. And I know not at my work, this is never a problem at my work, but in my home life, if I don't have something on in that day, I have to get up, then I really struggle to, COVID years where we were just trying to get motivated and moving when I didn't have to leave the house. So, but in a work environment on board, what do you know of anything?
Well, actually, this is such a good question. And I cannot, I'm not a teacher like you, and also I'm not like a psychologist or anything, but I can tell you maybe my own experience, and then maybe you can also, and then hopefully it helps other people as well. Because I think...
but can I just, you don't need to be a teacher or psychologist. It's like that, the thing is we learn from our own experiences, don't we? And what works and what doesn't work. And so...
I hope that young people can learn from this, because they are just starting, right? So I think so I can totally recognize this. I have a lot of hobbies, but I'm always beginning and then I stop again. So I have a painting set, and I have all kinds of different art projects. And I don't know if you recognize this. Or sometimes when I'm even doing chores in the house, I'm doing the washing and I'm cleaning up the toilet, and then I see that my bicycle needs something, and I'm doing that, and I think, oh no, I need to eat, and then I started to make a dish, and then I'm putting that on, and then I forgot the washing, and then I think this is an ADHD thing, like an attention dissociate thing. So I can totally recognize it. And also when I was still working on board and at school, I had trouble. I didn't have trouble planning, but that's always how it was. If somebody would evaluate me, they would say, or if I would evaluate myself, I will say, yeah, I have trouble planning, or I'm not structured. But actually, I'm really good in planning. And I can be really structured, and I can make a structure very well. because I can have an overview and I can just see it, like the system. So, but if I have to do it daily, like if I have to make it into my own mind, into my own life, then I struggle.
Yeah.
But so, and especially when there's no structure. So when there's nobody telling me what to do, or when there's no planning. So on board, it was very good for me to be, because every morning you have this, every evening you have that, you have your watch schedule. You know what's expected of you. You know how much time you can take for each task. You have a clear job description. You have monthly task, weekly task. You just know what to do. You have checklists. You have everything is very clear. And I very much like that. And it was already in my school, was already very clear. So it was very classical classroom lectures. Yeah, before we started, we get a clear overview of what we will learn, like what the end goal is. Also, I like that a lot, to know where we're going. So, yeah. And I think this is about different learning styles as well. So if cadets were listening to this, I can totally recommend working on board of a ship when you are an attention dissociate, because it will give you all the structure you need to just relax a little bit into your daily work. And then you can relax into your tasks, and then you can just improve them, like for yourself. And then you can a little bit think outside the box as well. If you start doing them, you recognize that this ease into yourself, like, which is a sense of safety, I think, allows you to then think more about. And I was also, when I was working on the ships, I was encouraged to do this. So they said, okay, you know the skill right now, but can you think a little bit further into what it means that you're doing? So can you maybe try to think about the time aspect in this maintenance, right? Or what other systems it's connecting to, like especially in the engine room, this is of course very clear. So yeah, you have troubleshoot this problem, but then can you look more into the trends? Can you analyze it better? And then I started recognizing that I can actually do this, right? I have the skill inside my mind that is able to do this. And then you get more confident, and then, yeah, you can grow as a person, and you can grow into your own skills and abilities, and then make them better and search for ways that improve, or also sometimes you find ways that doesn't work, right? So you can say, no, this doesn't work for me. So please, can we do it in a different way? Or I need time, so I think, when you're open, and when the people around you are also aware of this, then you can help each other so much, and you can really thrive together. Because, the ships, for example, the ships where I worked on, it was already a long time ago, so times have changed, first of all. But we almost never had service engineers for things, because we had all the knowledge, because everybody was like raised this way. So you just learn. And then the senior people had so much experience and skills that also the junior people, by the way, but you can just thrive so much as a team if you are able to work like this and recognize all the diversity in the brains of people. I don't know how to explain it better, but and I agree, it's really hard to talk about this, by the way.
I think what you just pointed out there, that the fact that this is a really good career in terms of structuring your day for somebody who struggles with getting started or managing their time, because it's fixed. That's such a good point to bring out. So that's such a pro. What about then, how did you manage on the college side in meeting deadline? Yeah, how do you manage with meeting deadlines? Do you struggle with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Big time.
Because that's, so getting started, meeting deadlines. But is that just in your personal life, home life, or do you struggle with meeting deadlines in a working capacity? Really?
All of the time. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. And so I know what to do, and I can make myself do things. So that helps a lot, especially with work, of course. And what I also recognize is that you can, if you're saying it, you can ask help. So you just have to ask help from your colleagues, by the way. For example, if you struggle with making deadlines in your work, you can just ask your colleagues to help you. Like, for example, making a deadline that is real, like that is working for you in reality. Because sometimes when I make a deadline for myself, it can be too close. And then I get really stressed out and then it doesn't work anymore. And then if I show it to my colleagues or to my coworkers or anybody who wants to help me because I asked, then they can say, yeah, but in reality, how do you manage? Because you have only so much days in a week and you are also doing this and this. So yeah, is it a manageable and real, what's the word? I'm almost
like realistic
goal. Yeah, is it realistic to have this deadline, or are you? Yeah, so it helps to share this,
right? And to share your plans, your idea of what. Is it just because you create unrealistic deadlines, or is it because you can't get on track with the job?
Yeah,
I mean,
sometimes it's unrealistic deadlines. Sometimes it gives me stress to even have a deadline.
Yeah.
That's also And the stupid thing is, when I don't have a deadline, most of the time it's ready within a day or something. Because if I'm working on something with anxiety, it just goes on. And it just, like, if I'm trying to squeeze everything into my own mind or something, it doesn't work anymore. And if I let it go, if I relieve this tension inside of my mind, I don't know, there must be some term about it, but if I let it go a little bit, give it space, I will just do it almost. Seems sometimes that I can just then do it almost effortlessly, which is really not nice feeling, because then the next time I feel so bad when I'm stressed out and I'm not doing simple tasks. Because I think, I have the capability to do it and I'm not doing it. It makes me feel so bad. And
I find deadlines stress me like anything. But yeah, I kind of need them too.
Yeah.
I like to have things done and I like to have them perfect. They've got to be. I tend to get really, I think perhaps you do too, consumed with an idea and just throw absolute everything at it to the point I've just abandoned the rest of life and nobody interrupts me, and I'm focused. And then it's done. I feel completely exhausted. I'm crying and and then a few weeks later I've forgotten about that idea because I've moved on. Now I'm on to this thing, which is my new thing that I'm just going to,
I think it's called Hyperfocus.
I've heard of that.
So I figured out it has something to do with dopamine rush as well. Because I think your mind, your system, I'm not sure if I'm explaining it well. So if you're watching this, please also look in it yourself. But I think it has something to do with your brain producing dopamine. By the way, with the use of social media, this goes bad. Social media addiction is really bad for if you're struggling with this, by the way. So this dopamine rush, when you're hyper-focusing on something, just keeps you addicted to what you are focusing on. And it gives you a good feeling. It gives you a feeling of yeah, really good feeling. Great. It keeps you attached, and then the hyperfocus gets deeper and deeper because you need this dopamine, because your brain somehow it gets numb. It got numb, or it was not there in the first place. This has something to do with the thing that happens in your brain and how your brain is wired, I think. So this is what I learned about hyperfocus, because I also recognize it very much. And hyperfocus on work is not so bad from what it's really helpful for me sometimes.
It can go too far though. I don't know about you. You can the exhaustion that comes after it. You can produce great things, but it's usually to the detriment of your health and your relationships and everything else.
Yeah. So then I became friends with my own brake system. I always call it this so then you can, if you're skiing off of a mountain, then it feels like this sometimes. And you're going, right? You're like, yeah! And then you're really enjoying this rush. Yeah, I'm going. And it feels really good, but actually you're not aware that you're going too fast. And you're going too fast and you will end up just like you said, like exhausted and crying. So what I've learned is that I then have to be friends with the brake system. So instead of skiing, I can just, ease it down a little bit. Like, okay, I'm not going so fast. I can go, but I can also ease into it a little bit and slow down a little bit and try to, ease into it and become friends with the brake system on my focus. I don't know how to call it.
Do you manage that? Do you manage to slow yourself? I like the way you described that. Yeah.
It's very hard.
Because it's enjoyable when you like you say, you get a dopamine rush and it's really great,
Yeah, so
you get totally into something.
It's really hard. And I can also see it sometimes with my kids or to other people around me. And then I can sometimes it helps to just remind people if you're observing it. It also helps. And also it helps to move your body. This is also what I do. So for me, it helps to move your body. That's what works for me. So when I'm, and then I get distraction. I get distracted by moving my body or something. I can just feel more.
So it breaks that focus. And
I think, I think this is now I'm thinking about it. It's actually a good question because when I'm in this hyperfocus, I feel not grounded anymore. I'm just like going with the flow, like really fast. And then when I ground myself, it slows me down. And also you have to slow down to be able to ground, right? So there must be something with it. Yeah. I hope this is helpful for people listening. It's so nice.
I don't know. Yeah. I guess in parts of the industry, it's a really useful trait to have sometimes, isn't it? For me, it tends to be when I have an idea, and then I go with that idea. So part of neurodiversity is that thinking outside the box, thinking differently, or different approaches to things, which is really valuable to any employer. I guess when you've got a team of people that all can think about different approaches, different ways will work. Yeah, don't know where I'm going with that, but working.
I think you can just, because I think you're going. I'm not sure, but I think what I'm thinking about if you say this is that you can be so creative. You can be so creative, right? You can be creative in yourself, allowing your brain to function like it does, and you can be creative as a team to make use of all the different skills and abilities. And I think neurodiverse people have a broad capability of some specific things sometimes. So, and I don't really know how to explain it so well, but it gives you like a scope of abilities or capabilities. And the scope is wider than we are used to see in this society always, I think. And this is also, by the way, maybe what makes it a little bit difficult to talk about. Because I can notice it as well. Like you said, I am also feeling this. It's scary to talk about because you're scared that, at least I am scared that people will think I'm weird or something, because it's not seen so much as normalized in this society right now. So you will either get some kind of diagnosis that you have like a disability, which is not true, I think, but well, I'm also not a doctor. But this, I think, creates the difficulty talking about it also in a way. So I think...
It's a label, isn't it? It's like a label.
It's like a label.
Yeah. But I don't know what it's like in the Netherlands, but in the UK, there's long wait lists for diagnosis and stuff, or it's really expensive to get one. But ultimately, you get a diagnosis, and then where do you go from there? And it's not really, for me, it doesn't really matter it's more about understanding yourself. Yeah. And you don't need a label. It's more just understanding how your mind and your body works and reacts to things. Like you might be hypersensitive, certain, touch, smell. So I get quite overwhelmed with just people and noise and sometimes textures as well. But understanding now, realising that, then you know what you need and what to do. So that's all. It's just, you don't need a label. You just need to understand how you work.
Yes.
And make sure you can communicate that to others if you need to. And also find that when you're looking for work, and if you were to go into the Merchant Navy and a career at sea, it's that awareness, I think, of the isolation. I mean, you'll be isolated, you'll be this, whatever. But to actually truly understand that problems that things that you might face, then you could think about how you would cope with that or how you would manage it and whether you could too. Like if it's there are tons of, jobs out there that will suit you or not suit you. This one, if you're out there, it's quite extreme. If it's, if you realise then, so being able to have this advanced notice of potential things. And I think the social one is a huge thing that you can leave, on land, you can leave your work and whatever's going on with those people, and you can leave your boss and those rules that exist and how you interact. And again, different in how you view things in the Netherlands and other countries in the world, and positions and hierarchy and all that stuff. But all those norms that exist in your country, you leave that behind and you go and you take yourself away to where you feel comfortable and accepted and with people you want to be with.
Yeah.
Because work, often you can be with people you don't want to be, but you wouldn't normally interact with. And especially when you're moving ship to ship and you're put with a bunch of people and you could get lucky or you could not get lucky. And you will have to deal with that. Mm-hmm. But you have to be able to protect yourself when you're not lucky with that bunch of people you don't fit, that you're not going to fit, and you would never fit with that particular group. Then you've got no out. You have to do both the work and the social. And when I do a lot of following the facial expressions and masking, and I'm analysing constantly what people's faces are doing and what their body language is doing, the tone of voice, to think what that means. And I've only in the last few years understood that I do this. And now I try, whenever I see it, I stop it because it's not helpful. But I've spent years analysing and interpreting to see what they expect from me, what I'm supposed to do in this situation. And where we're going, I can't remember, but I can't remember. It's very exhausting when you're doing that. And I think that's quite a common thing with, you're trying to, again, go under the radar, just fit into that thing, that group or that work team. And you're not used to being you because you don't know who you are. You don't understand that. And again, it's only recently.
Yeah.
We had this conversation before when you've gone like, where am I? Yeah. And that recently I had that. What is it? Why? But if you don't have that understanding, it's quite dangerous being in these environments if you're trying to please, to fit in, to please, to be whatever it is you're supposed to be in that thing that you've analysed the situation and what their body's doing and their tone and everything. And you're trying to fit into that thing that you think you need to. It can be dangerous, but also exhausting, so exhausting. Yeah. And you cannot get out of it. And then the aftermath of that, when you're going day in, day out, trying to cover up, though you don't understand you are doing that, all of that, So I don't know how we can firstly, you have to be aware that you do this, that you are masking, but then also, I think if you're looking at a career at sea, you have to consider that social side is part of it, and then perhaps look at ship type, where it might be better, where it's going to be harder, more challenging perhaps less people on board, or I don't know.
Well, yeah. Thank you for saying that, because it makes very much sense. And I think also what you're trying to say is that you should be aware of this, which is really a good thing, and that you can be open with it. And I think maybe, so there's a few things I wanted to reflect on. And that's first of all, that this label sometimes can help you get the need, that support for the needs that you have, right? But it doesn't mean that you need a label to voice what you need. So you can also say, hey, makes me feel better if you do this, or please, try to not do this because it really makes me feel bad or anxious. And then you can just voice your needs and somebody else can recognize it maybe, or they don't, and then they can say they don't recognize it, or they find it difficult to help you or to do this because maybe they have their own needs, like they don't very well combined maybe. But you have to communicate about this. And also I think this is the very important thing about having an inclusive team. And I think while you were explaining what your experience is, and also I have this experience, so especially for women, I think it's very much like the societal norms and the norms that are expected of us are big, and it's going very deep. Like if you are a girl, most of the time you have to behave like a girl, right? But then you have to sit in a certain way, you have to behave in a certain way. Also, you tell yourself this, that no, I'm a girl, I have to do this, right? And then when you have like a neurodiverse brain that goes on top of this. So, so at home, I was being really hyperactive sometimes, but really, really hyperactive sometimes. Drive my parents crazy sometimes, but really bad, but in a good way. But in school, I was never this. I was always quiet and like I didn't stand out so much. Yeah, I stood out because I'm tall and I was already tall as a kid, so I always stand out everywhere I go. But I was not hyperactive at all, because I just did what you did. Like you're just seeing what people want to see from you and you're acting like this. So what you do in the end, that is what I discovered a few years ago, is that you build this entire personality around yourself with all kinds of roles and things that are expected from you. But it's not true. It's just empty, because it was not you. There's somebody in there that is you, somebody like is hidden somewhere. It's not disappeared, but it's very exhausting to keep up all these different roles and all these different perspectives of you that you want to create for other people is very exhausting. So I think what you wanted to say, I think, is that you want to give people this information so that if they work on a ship, they can maybe try to be themselves. Because this is, in the end, this is the most easy to be yourself, because then you can also very well tell what you need in order to work and in order to thrive and do your tasks and everything. Because this is what you're hired for, right? You're hired to do a task on board of a ship. And also maybe what I want to advise people is to dip their toe in, so to say. So for me, when I started working on a ship, I was not sure. Like I was attracted to the job. Like I really wanted it. And I also like, whoa, that would be awesome if I can work on a ship. Like, sailing the big oceans. Oh, that would be so awesome. But then, and then I went to a school on an island just to see if I was able to deal with a closed environment on an island, not in a city and not in like landside, but on an island you can only leave with a ferry boat, right? That goes only 2 times a day. So if you can, and you don't have a cinema, you only have the very small group of people on the island. You have to, also we had to wear a uniform. We had a campus with a kitchen, so you cannot cook for yourself. You really have to eat. Not the same as on board of the ship. So for me, this was really good experience, because then I can already see if I like it. Like if I can be in this environment as a person. So
how did you get on then? You must have gotten all right to then pursue a career.
No, I liked it.
Yeah,
I liked it. But the only thing that I was really like anxious about back then was that the fact that it was only 10% girls, 8 or 10%. So I was like, yeah, do I like living with boys, which were like 18-year-old boys? So living in the campus in a home we were living in one home with 12 boys. Yeah, you have to like that or not like that. You have to cope with things like weird things like smoking under the shower.
What?
Yeah, like weird things that boys do. Like, yeah, I remember then I was ready to take a shower, but I was sharing it with the 12 other people, mainly boys, because my roommate was a girl, but the rest was boys. And then I found all this, like, cigarettes in the corner of and I was just like, what happened in here? Oh yeah, I just took a smoke when I had a shower. There was also a chair in the corner, so we just sit down under the chair in the shower, and he was like, oh, but how? So yeah, it's just like, and then on the shower again. Oh my God, I would never, this blows your mind. But anyway, that was a sidetrack.
I don't know if you summed that up well, like you brought out the points, exactly what I was meaning.
Yeah. So I think that breaks it down. And also, by the way, still, if you're listening to this and if you have something to add or if you like it, please share it in the comments, and please ask us stuff, tag us in the messages, because we like to talk about this. And also, I hope you enjoyed listening to this. So, Gillian, just to close out, I want to ask you this question, and I'm asking it to every guest on the show. It's a big question.
Okay,
but hopefully, if you
go for it.
Yes. But we're honest, so I don't. Okay, so I'm making this podcast here in Yachting International Radio because my biggest wish is for us all to see and recognize human kindness within ourselves and in the other. And I think we did a really good job today in talking about this stuff, because I think, so my question is, what makes you feel human and a part of humankind?
Oh,
it's a big one.
No, I don't know either. I can't answer. Sorry.
That's okay. It's a big one, right? So, yeah. So what made me feel human today is that I'm not feeling very well. I'm a little bit sick. And I was very thankful that I'm not feeling sick every day. Because if you feel sick and you feel a little bit better, you can really appreciate your health. And then you can really feel, oh yeah, I'm human. So this was it for me today.
I like that.
Yeah. So thank you so much for this interview today.
Thanks for having me, Eva.
And it was wonderful to have you on the show. And thanks also to our listeners. I hope you learned a little bit more about inclusion and safety. And feel free to share this message and this podcast if you did. And before we say goodbye, please remember to stay grateful to your ears and open to the universe. Tot ziens and see you in the next episode.